Good morning and good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to this Peace Education webinar. My name is Kristina Miletic. I am Regional Coordinator at GPAC of African regions and Western Balkans as well, and I'm also liaison person for Peace Education Working Group. And before we started the webinar, I would like to introduce you GPAC. And so GPAC stands for Global Partnership for the Prevention of Armed Conflict. And GPAC was founded in 2003 as a member-led network of civil society organizations active in the field of conflict prevention and peace building across the world. Our mission is to promote a shift in how the armed conflict is dealt with, a shift from reaction to prevention of armed conflict. And how do we do that? We work together with our members, and we focus very much on bottom-up approach and local ownership. So what our local members do and need, what are the activities that they would like to implement. And we are present in 15 regional networks of local organizations, and together with them we try to prevent a conflict. And we focus on different topics such as human security, gender, dialogue, and mediation, but one of them is peace education. And since 2006, GPAC members from all over the world, they have been working together to exchange information, knowledge, skills, tools, and strategies on how best to engage and collaborate with the key stakeholders in their education systems, and together with Ministry of Education. And our members, they formed the Peace Education Working Group that Jen is co-chair of. It is very unique working group because it brings together different actors such as civil society, teachers, practitioners, academia, and also representatives of ministries of education or other relevant government agencies to build the capacity of peace educators, teachers, and civil society organizations to integrate peace education in national curricula, teacher training, and education-related policies and recommendations. And we organize peace education webinars every month that you can check on our website. And perhaps, Jen, you mentioned that you have the sources open, or shall I share my screen?
Yeah, so I'm happy to share some of the e-learning resources that we have through GPAC's Peace Education Working Group. And so, as Kristina mentioned, we have representatives from all of the world's regions who are working. Usually we work with governments and teams of civil society organizations who are working to build capacity in their countries or regions. And so we're going to share with you, you'll each have an opportunity to share maybe one of your favorite e-learning resources, especially since around the world many of our schools have gone to learning online, or you'll be doing some more training or coursework if you're preparing teachers at the university. And so I'll share with you some of the resources that we have through GPAC. So GPAC has worked in some of these different countries that you see here on policy to practice. So we do have resources in many different languages that you'll be able to access from the GPAC webpage. This webinar we're going to be doing in English, but our hope is that some of our colleagues from around the world that are part of the Peace Ed Working Group will also share some of their resources that they use in their regions, in their languages. So if you go to the GPAC webpage, you'll be able to find bibliographies of research, copies of supporting documents from different regions that are doing work, and then lessons learned in other webinars. If you'd like to go ahead and take over the screen, Kristina, then and share your the direct links, you're more than welcome. Here, I'll go ahead and stop sharing so you can share directly the GPAC screen.
Sure. Thank you. So this is the website, the link, GPAC website, where you can find the Peace Education webinar series. And we record every webinar. So first one, for example, we organized on building capacity from a local to global level. and that was conducted by Jen. That was our first webinar. Then we also had webinar on school mediation in multi-ethnic communities in Serbia, and that was conducted by a GPAC member from Western Balkans from Serbia, Nacional Dialogue Center, which is a civil society organization, and it was conducted together with the representative of Minister of Education. So Jen can also mention later about new series that we are going to do with UNESCO, and the idea is also to share good practices of civil society organizations that work with their Ministry of Education in our member countries. So then another one was on inclusive education in multicultural societies in Ukraine. But if you go to our website, you can listen to the webinars. So they are all recorded. Then we had one also in Philippines, lessons learned from 3 decades of peace education work. Then we had also about participatory video as a form of peace education that was led by Lucy. That is also an interesting methodology, how to use participatory video. So yes, on this on this link you can learn more about that. Then we also organized webinars. Oh no, sorry, I want to show you the latest ones on prevention of violent extremism. So our member from Ghana, VANEP, Western Africa Network of Peace Building, they actually shared about how peace education can be used for prevention of violent extremism, and they're actually launching, they developed this curricula that will be accepted by ECOWAS and also ECOWAS members, ministries of education of countries of ECOWAS. So here you can learn more about that. And this is how we as GPAC support our members to share their knowledge and experiences through this online tool. Then another thing that we are also supporting is Ohio Peace and Conflict Studies Network. So here, if you go to this website, you can find webinars, and maybe Jen, you can tell more about that.
Sure. Thank you. So one of the things that our Peace Education Working Group would like to do is to help support colleges and universities who are teaching peace education, conflict resolution, but also to help those who are working with teachers. So those webinars will be an opportunity for, particularly I use the webinars, I teach at the University of Akron and also at Cleveland State University, undergraduate and graduate level in teacher preparation. So I know that those specialists from around the world will be on at a certain date and time, and I assign that as one of my options for speakers. So for instance, in my class at the undergraduate level, I have 15 speakers from all over the world who are specialists in everything from bullying prevention to global education. And Gary Shaw's on from the Department of Education, our chair of the Peace Ed Working Group. He'll share a little bit more about some of those resources. And so for those of you who teach classes, that might be something that you'd like to do for your students. It's a wonderful way to bring the world into your classroom. They get to speak directly to experts and ask and answer questions. I usually assign pre-readings from those countries, so they learn a little bit about the country and the work in peace building and conflict resolution. And so of the 15 guest speakers, they are to pick 5 that they're able to join, because of course they're on at different times. So that's something to think about as a potential resource. What we'd like to do now is I'm going to hand it over to Tony, where he should be able to share a resource. So Tony Jenkins is with the Global Campaign for Peace Education. He's also one of our members from the Peace Education Working Group. We're really happy to have him join us. And Tony, please share with us some of the resources that you use in your teaching around peace or conflict resolution education.
Thank you very much, Jen. Good morning, everyone. I don't know what time it is for you, where you are around the world. The sun hasn't quite come up here just yet, so I'm still working on waking myself up. but I'm really pleased to be here with you to share a little bit about some of the resources, and particularly that the Global Campaign for Peace Education has available. And I'm just going to maybe give you a quick overview of our website, which is really rich with resources for people who are looking to study peace education, advocate for peace education, et cetera. So I don't know how many people are familiar with the Global Campaign. It was launched at The Hague, at the Hague Appeal for Peace Civil Society Conference in 1999. And at that particular conference, it was determined that the fundamental challenges of abolishing war, reducing violence, was not really possible without intentional, sustained and systemic education for peace. So what the Global Campaign does is it advocates for the development of peace education in all teacher training institutions and in all education, both formal and non-formal, throughout the world. So we have kind of a global advocacy campaign that really works from the grassroots. And you can read a little bit more about it here on the website. But just I want to turn your attention to the website in general, and I'll share all these links that I'm going to speed through really quickly to just let you know the wealth of resources and knowledge that we have to share with you. So we really sort of conceive of our website as a sort of an open source project gathering information on peace education research, knowledge, curricula, news, opinions, curricula, et cetera, from all around the world, as well as events, programs, and projects. So, for example, you can see here on our front page, for those who are interested in the connection to COVID-19, gender, patriarchy, in peace studies, that we have an op-ed that's just been published by Betty Reardon, one of the key founders and contributors to our field of peace education. A great resource for those of you who might be looking to make connections in these trying times. But what I want to bring your attention to is sort of the usefulness of the website. So if you're looking for curricula on any number of different topics, under resources in the menu, you can click on curricula, and it's going to open a huge archive of different curricula related resources gathered from contributors from around the world. And I'm not going to walk you through any of these in particular. There's about, I don't know, a dozen or so pages of different curricula you can look into, covering all different sorts of topics, interests and motivations. So depending on where you are around the world and the kind of issues that you might be concerned with, you can kind of dive in here and get a number of different resources that you could easily integrate into your classroom teaching peace studies. Another way to kind of work through the site is just if there's a particular topic that you might be interested in, say human rights, you can just do a general search and you'll get, again, just kind of a quick sense of results of some of the different things that are available to you out there. I want to give you a little bit of a sneak peek of something that we're developing that's not quite ready for public eyes yet, but it will be hopefully another 2 or 3 weeks. So as I said, our site is sort of conceived as this global repository of a lot of different knowledge. We have thousands of posts on our website, and we are kind of trying to reorganize it as a clearinghouse to make information and resources much more easily accessible for you. So in a few weeks, what you're seeing now will be available for everyone to access. Basically, we've created an option where you can kind of come in and filter out different, using different criteria. For example, I'm just sorting in here for all the different curricular resources that we have on our website, and then I could sort them out also by country. And so we haven't quite finished, coding everything in here yet. So, for example, if I want to get curricula specific to the United States, I could pull that up and sort that out. So yeah, this is just to give you a sneak peek of this. If you come to the website, join the campaign, we'll let you know when these resources are available. One other thing, as I mentioned, as an open resource project, we really invite and encourage members of the campaign to share with us information about news that's happening in peace education around the world, events, curricula, et cetera. And so we do have an open platform under a little share link right there at the top, or you can submit resources to be shared on the site and in the database for others to use. And it's quite simple and straightforward. You can kind of just fill in the information, and typically within a day or two, we get it approved and posted as long as it's relevant to peace education. Jen, do I have 30 more seconds to share one last resource?
Absolutely, Tony. And maybe what, if you wouldn't mind sharing what you teach and where you teach, so that, and then if you have any tips about how you use any of these resources in your classes. So if you want to take a couple more minutes, and then we'll go ahead and have Gary Shaw from the Department of Education of Melbourne share about some of the resources on global education that they use in schools there.
Sure, I'm happy to share. So, you know, my day job when I'm not coordinating the campaign or doing other work promoting peace education is I teach a program in Justice and Peace Studies at Georgetown University. And so actually we use a lot of the resources that are on our website as sort of the substance and the content in our course to kind of bring in really tangible perspectives on peace education from different contexts around the world. The one last resource I will share with you is one I use most actively in my Intro to Peace Studies course. And you can find a link for it on our website here under the free curricula, the Study War No More guide. I'm just going to open it up real quickly. And this is a project that was developed in partnership with the organization World Beyond War. It was really kind of designed as an online e-learning platform and space for people who are concerned with studying the possibilities of the abolition of war. And it's based upon World Beyond War's book, A Global Security System, an Alternative to War. But what's here is just a tremendous treasure trove of resources and study guides to help you kind of work through some kind of key questions that might be really relevant to your peace studies curricula. So I'm just looking here, sort of the main index of some of the topics and discussion topics we have. And let me give you one that might be kind of interesting to a lot of people here. Let's look at, you can see ecological security, nonviolence, demilitarization and disarmament, the sustainable global economy as a foundation for peace, reforming and building effective institutions and international law. A lot of people are interested in nonviolent civilian-based defense and civilian peacekeeping work. So I just kind of open this up real quickly and show you how this is kind of designed here. So each of the topics within this guide is accompanied by an introductory video where we interview kind of some of the people who are really working on these particular issues. And so, for example, in this particular topic, we interviewed the executive director of Nonviolent Peace Force, Tiffany Eastham, who's talking very specifically about how they're approaching this work in the field around the world to create positive change. And then we have a whole series of resources, guiding questions to kind of help you work through understanding the role of the particular topic. What's the role of civilian peacekeeping? Questions to kind of facilitate discussion in classrooms, in community groups, and others who might be interested in just pursuing this. Additional resources to kind of follow up on the topics. And each of our lessons has two different discussions that you can kind of pick from depending on your motivations and interests. So they dive even deeper. So for example, here we even kind of introduced Gene Sharp's idea of civilian-based defense and include videos and information for him and some additional resources as well. So it's a really amazing resource that we keep adding to throughout the years here. But I think particularly ideally suited for people who are in peace studies classrooms, community discussion groups, and it's sort of a wholesale curricula ready for your use. So happy to share it with you.
Great, thank you so much. And hopefully, for those of you who teach at the university but don't teach in teacher preparation or work in schools K-12 or primary and secondary, you'll be able to join us in the coming weeks. Each week we're going to have a discussion like this about online resources. Next week's will be on teaching conflict resolution skills in using online tools. So we'll post that in the same place as we posted this webinar, and hopefully you'll be able to join us if that's of interest. Thanks so much, Tony, for those great resources. Thanks for putting the link in the Zoom group chat. I'm going to hand it over to Gary Shaw now to share. Gary Shaw is the chair of the Peace Education Working Group for the Global Partnership for the Prevention of Armed Conflict, and his paid work through the Department of Education in Melbourne, Australia, where he oversees work, including anti-bullying, the global education work. And so he'll share some of the good resources that they have that are free there for schools in global citizenship and more. Thanks, Gary. Go ahead.
Thanks, Jen. Hello, everybody. It's good evening here. I've put the rubbish tins out and I'll be going to bed shortly. So it's a very interesting time to be sharing these resources. I think for every one of us now, this is probably one of the, well, it is, I think, the worst global crisis that we have faced, and me, like a lot of other people, are currently located in, we're not allowed to go into our workplace. Everything's been shut down. And one of the things we're working on in the Department of Education at the moment is what will life look like post-COVID-19. And we certainly think that it's a global solution that will bring some resolution to this current problem. So the work that I do in the Department of Education is very much linked to raising awareness of global citizenship education, responsibilities of schools to make the teachers themselves more aware of the world and our place within it. And so a lot of the resources that we have are focused on that that needs to be more globally aware. And I'll highlight one initially, which if I can bring
Yeah, you should be able to share, Gary. Just move your cursor down at the bottom where you see the little.
Yep.
Great.
This was always going to be problematic for me, Jen.
It's all right. I can pull it up too if you'd like me to, if you want to tell me where I go.
I thought I had it. Here we are. Oh, well, I'll go with the second one first, sorry. I was going to, there was a set of resources for global learning, but I want to, well, I'll highlight that if I can later, but the first one is one that I think is a fairly good one for practical teaching of
it's not on the
diversity
screen.
education. Not on the screen?
No. You need to click share and then click on exactly, you should see like multiple screens pop up and you click on your.
Okay. Yep. My apologies, everybody. Okay.
There we go. Got it. Got it.
Start with that one. This one particularly focused on diversity and difference. Obviously, within a developing global perspectives, it's important to enable students and teachers to explore difference and diversity in their local communities as well as more broadly. And this resource, I think, is a really good one, a very practical one that consists of a range of teaching modules and activities. It also has within it some teacher professional learning. Now, it is attached to the Australian curriculum, but at the same time, I think it provides a broader view of how diversity is it's such an important kind of activity within the classroom. And you can also see that it goes more broadly in terms of thinking globally. So the idea of identity, who we are, thinking more broadly about global learning, I'll just draw up some of the student modules. Ways of seeing our country, cultures, takes a particular civics and citizenship approach, particularly the idea of global citizenship. So thinking globally and looking at some of the issues that affect us, such as poverty, the SDGs, Sustainable Development Goals, and global identities. So there's quite a number of activities within this particular module that I think people will find quite useful regardless of whether they're attached to the Australian curriculum or not. And there is a teacher professional learning, if I go back a step. Sorry, my navigation skills aren't terrific with this at the moment, but if I go back one step, there are some professional learning modules in there. There's free online professional learning courses for teachers. And I think they're very, very useful for introducing diversity education and developing students' sense of understanding and awareness of intercultural capability and how diversity can be discussed and presented in the classroom. There was another one, Jen, I was hoping to share. Maybe if I, which is the global learning one. Do you have that one close by, Jen?
What we can do, Gary, yeah, is if you want to spend a little time searching for that, we can have you stop sharing the screen, and then we'll go to another person to share, and then we can come back to you when you have that up. Does that work?
Okay, right. Thank you, Jen.
Great. Thank you so much, Gary. And Gary, in the chat, would you mind putting, maybe you could copy and paste the link to that page for folks, and that way they'll have that. Okay, great. So what I'd like to do now is to just share a couple of additional resources that we have. And what I'd invite each of you to do is, if you're on this call and you have or know of free resources that you use to teach either teachers in teacher preparation, primary and secondary, or students in schools, if you'll please go into the chat room, and if you'll just make a note that you'd like to share, then I'll call on you next, if you have some resources that you know of in English. I did want to share the Association for Conflict Resolution. This is one of the things that we're not going to spend a lot of time on here in this particular discussion of online resources, is how do we define what we're talking about. So each of our countries, because we work with GPAC, we have the Peace Education Working Group. We have many different overarching titles for the work that we're doing in our countries. And so this is what we consider to be conflict resolution education, teaching, modeling and teaching in culturally meaningful ways, the processes, practices, and skills. And so one of the things I'd like us to think about is when we're teaching, frequently, not just in the United States, but around the world, teaching had been very based in lecture versus in skill building and application of those skills. So I'd like us to think about what kinds of resources we also have to teach the skills and the application. If you're interested in looking at building the vocabulary for your students, one of the great tools, you'll see the link at the bottom of the PowerPoint there is, and you might need to move your toolbar, but is a resource from the United States Institute of Peace, has a glossary of terms for conflict management and peace building. So you could even use that in your classes. When we're talking about teaching the skills, and I'm going to get to a couple of the free resources here, and again, if you would like to share, you have a resource you use in teaching teachers or in The classroom, if you can put a note in the chat, and I'll call on you there here in a moment. But we're thinking about how do we build these skills, and we know that we need to build the skills in this order. So we need to teach understanding the nature of conflict, emotions in conflict, effective communication skills, and then problem solving. So it's just like math. We need to learn to add and subtract before we multiply and divide. So what are some of the kinds of tools that we might have to teach those? And so I'll share some of those with you here in a moment. For those who are, many of us who work in education, we hear all over the globe that people that are teachers really don't have a lot of time for incorporating this content in. One of the things I'd encourage those of you who are in the United States, because we have quite a few on, is to take a look at the U.S. Education Commission of the States, where you can search by topic. They have a searchable database of legislation. This is also something that might be of interest if you're teaching in teacher preparation. And you can look and see what states' laws and regulations are around everything from bullying prevention to social emotional learning, which are some of the key terms that we use here in the United States. And when you click on Education Commission of the States and you pull up, let's say you pull up your state's bullying prevention legislation. One of the ways that I use that in my classes for teaching teachers at the graduate level at Cleveland State University in our conflict resolution education course is I ask them to take a look at the good practices and the legislation around bullying prevention from our State Department of Education and match that up with what their school district does. And they do an analysis between their bullying prevention policy for their school and their district, and then they look at what the best practice policies are, and then they write up for me, and again, this is at the graduate level for teachers, they write up an analysis and their recommendations for their school to help enhance their policies. So that might be a resource that might be of interest to you. Here were some of the resources that Gary was talking about. Some of them he was able to talk about, some of them he didn't, but here's a link to some of those resources. We'll have this recording will be saved and archived on GPAC's webpage, hopefully next week. And I'll ask that GPAC email all of you that were on and registered to send this out to you so you'll have access to this. There are quite a few wonderful free resources out there. There's also, for those of you who teach about peer mediation, they're the U.S. national standards for peer mediation, and this is a really important resource. So my name, again, is Jennifer Batten, and I'm the former Director of Education Programs. So Ohio had a state government office on dispute resolution and conflict management, and I was responsible for working with all of Ohio's 3,600 public schools and our 52 teacher training universities. And one of the things that I noticed was, while our state said that they had 1,200, we had about 1,200 public schools, so about a third that said they had peer mediation programs at the time. When I was told that they didn't work, some of the schools would say it doesn't work. I'd encourage them to take a look at the peer mediation standards for the country and see if they were able to take a look at how much training they were doing versus how much training was recommended by the good practices. So we'll have this up and available for folks so that you'll be able to access some of these links. In addition to that, I want to go ahead and see here who, I see Cheryl Wolk has joined us from the Northeast Asian Regional Peacebuilding Institute in South Korea. So we're really happy you joined us. I'm going to take a look here at the chat and see if I couldn't have another colleague share one of their good resources. Actually, Madeline, would you be willing to share your resource now, and then we'll move to some of the other colleagues? Madeline?
I think I'm not really qualified to share with this group because all my teaching now is in prisons. Excuse me. And I can't use the internet. I can't even take flash drives into the prisons. So I'm working with male and female inmates and teaching peacemaking skills. It's a year-long program where they live together in small groups. And my job is to write the curriculum and teach the others to teach the curriculum for how to play nicely with others. So right now, a lot of my work is on brain science and trauma recovery, trauma healing, and the impact of trauma on behavior and rewiring the brain, the self-directed neuroplasticity. So I'm not sure that I have anything really useful to give you all today. What do you think?
So Madeline's being very modest. Madeline actually helped the state of Ohio develop most of the materials used in those 3,600 public schools. So what we'll do is I'll go ahead and I'll share some of the resources. And then if you have some tips for how to use those, Madeline, based on your work with our schools, even though it's been a few years, that would be great. So let me go ahead and share another resource that we have. One is, because I didn't see other folks in the chat note that they'd like to share a resource, we'll go to one from our colleague in the Philippines. So Dr. Loretta Castro created this free book, co-authored this book on peace education, A Pathway to a Culture of Peace. You can actually just Google the title, do a search, and you'll find it. But I did put in this PowerPoint slide some of the chapters, so you can take a look at that. Miriam College actually does require a class for all of their teacher ed students, but also all of the other students there in the Philippines that attend Miriam College on how, peace education. And this is one of the resources that they use at the university for preparing teachers, but also for those who are going out in the world to be future doctors or nurses or healthcare, business, etc. So that's a wonderful free resource that's out there. Gary or Tony, do you have any other comments about this book from our colleague Loretta?
I would just say, for those who are new to peace education in theory and practice, this is really one of the best straightforward resources that you can find, and practical as well. I use it to introduce peace education to my students. So just a remarkable contribution to the field, and now it's in its 3rd edition, so it's been regularly updated. And you can get it, as you say, practically for free. So
yeah, great, thank you. Let's take a look too. I want to share one of the things that GPAC members, so the Global Partnership for the Prevention of Armed Conflict, have done is partnered with other organizations that are doing good work. So this is a resource that is in English, but it's also available in Dari and Pashto, and used in Afghanistan, but it's using literature and stories. So hopefully most of us who work in education think about how, especially teaching children, how we can teach pro-social skills, social emotional learning, conflict resolution through literature. It's a really natural, good fit. And here is a resource that's free and online. It was developed with McMaster's University in Canada, and it's A Journey of Peace, Stories of Hope and Healing for Children Living in War. You could still use these stories, again, in English and other languages in your classrooms for children to read, to learn more about another culture and the conflict and the impact on children. And these were developed in part to help reduce trauma and for the young people in Afghanistan through stories, because there is not enough mental health support in that area. So one of the ways that GPAC worked with Help the Afghan Children was to assist in developing the national standards for peace education for secondary schools. And so this resource was for primary, middle, and also used at the secondary level. That's a nice resource. You can Google it or do a search, or you can find later the direct link. This is a tool that I use both for my undergrads and graduate teacher preparation, and I also give to our in-service teachers in our teacher training. Now, some people might think about humanitarian law and what does this have to do with social emotional learning or conflict resolution? This toolkit I found, regardless of the content that you're teaching in the classroom, is fabulous. You can download it here. It's actually available in more than these 4 languages. It's also in Albanian and other languages. This toolkit includes 10 key strategies for engagement in the classroom. So that's, how do you use role plays effectively? How do you talk about difficult topics in the classroom? So this is really your pedagogical guide to how you teach what you're teaching. And it's a wonderful resource that you can access. So there are 10 different strategies, and it tells you, it gives you the good tips for doing that well. I think many times people use role playing, especially to teach conflict resolution or social emotional learning skills, but many times our educators don't realize that there's a more effective way to do that, and these share those tips. So one of the things that I'd also like to share with you here, for those of you who might teach peer mediation, I wanted to find videos that I could use and assign in my classes for students, which are future teachers, both at the undergraduate and graduate level, where they could see what a peer mediation looked like. And I found of all the peer mediation videos that I've watched, so there's one from the Maui Mediation Center. It's a little bit older, from 2009, but what I like about it is it follows the national standards here in the United States for peer mediation programs. So there are actually peer mediation part 1, and then there's part 2 and part 3. What I do is I assign these 3 videos to my students so that they can learn more about the resources. So my question is, did people see the EHL PowerPoint, or had I stopped sharing the screen? Can someone share that with me? Can someone tell me if you were able to see that? It looks like somehow my screen had stopped sharing.
Are you, excuse me, Jan, are you asking if we saw the photograph of the peer mediators?
I'm asking if you were able to see the books that I shared, Loretta's book.
Yes.
Yeah,
yes.
we saw them. Yeah.
Yes, we saw those.
I must have somehow hit. And did you see the book, the Exploring Humanitarian Law book as well?
Yes.
Okay, great. Okay. All right. So this is a wonderful resource. You'll be able to see the kids. And then what's nice is they actually stop after a certain amount of time that they're doing the mediation, and they debrief. So again, you can Google Mediation Services of Maui and take a look. It took me quite a long time to find a good video series on peer mediation for people to use. Here is the Exploring Humanitarian Law. You'll be able to also find not just the pedagogical manual, but so what's wonderful again is in 19 languages, and you'll also have access to curriculum to teach about humanitarian law with videos, if that's of interest to you. One of the other resources, and we'll be actually conducting about once a month, GPAC's Peace Ed Working Group, a series around these booklets, these guidance booklets on good practice, global good practice around how do you integrate conflict resolution, social emotional learning, peace education at scale. This was created in partnership with UNESCO, the International Institute for Educational Planning, and the International Bureau of Education, and from Qatar, the Protecting Education in Insecurity and Conflict. So you'll see up at the top here, the partners. You'll be able to, the booklets include what kinds of, how we need to look at learning outcomes to develop our curriculum, the curriculum review. So what's already happening in countries or states. So this applies not just internationally, but also for those of you that work in the United States, you're looking at how do we integrate this so it becomes a way of how the school operates. This is a great tool. How will we use the curriculum? So will we do curriculum integration approach, or will we do an approach where maybe it's a standalone course? It also includes tips here on textbooks. So how do you develop textbooks effectively to teach these core skills? And then one of the segments that's near and dear to my heart is the teacher development. So how will we support and train teachers? This booklet 7. And then evaluation and monitoring. So if you take a look, you can download these. They're about 26 pages each with links to a great deal of research and data about how to do this well. That's a good practice. What I'd like to do is hand it over now, if there aren't others who'd like to share, to my colleague, Christina, from GPAC, so she can share about the podcasts that are available from GPAC. And then I'll share about how I use podcasts with my teachers at the undergraduate level in my global education and technology course. Christina, would you like to share now?
Yes, thank you, Jen. Just a second. So what I would like to share with you is that we have also Peace Corner, it's called Peace Corner Podcast Project. And we do that with 2 others networks, United Network of Young Peace Builders, and also CSPPS, which is a network also works in peace building, but with member states as well, and civil society organizations. And here what we are trying to do is to interview peace builders that discuss on innovative ways and visions for making peace building inclusive. And actually, we want to share their voices and personal stories. So you can go to this webpage, and there you can be listed all the podcasts. Yeah, I would suggest that also as a e-learning tool. But I would like also to invite you, if you would be interested to participate in one of our podcasts, so that is also possible that you share your expertise and knowledge as well. So that is one thing that I would like to share with you. And also I copied in the chat. Here you can find the web page of Peace Education Working Group, and you can find most of our resources here, such as webinars, but also publications, Peace Education Training Manual, also Armenia Peace and Conflict Resolution Education in Schools program, which was case study, and Jen also worked on that. So yeah, I just wanted to share that with you.
Great, thank you so much. I'm going to hand it over here to Cheryl and then over to Gary to finish up here. But one of the things I wanted to share that we do at the undergraduate level, so I teach a course on global education and technology, of which we integrate some of the core skills on conflict resolution, social emotional learning. And because the course is completely taught online, I've assigned the students to do a podcast. So they learn about how to use technology for their classrooms. And one of the assignments I have is I have them do, and for those of you in the United States, many of you are probably familiar with this, but it's called StoryCorps. And it's where it enables you to be able to record your own podcast or you've done an interview. So I assign students several readings and about how to do an effective interview. Their assignment is to engage with and see if they can interview someone who is not born in the United States to share more about their educational experience when they grew up, as they were growing up. And then they record those. the goal is for them to develop a podcast that they could actually use in their classrooms when they have their own classes. So you could think about lots of different ways that you could use the interview process. The nice thing about this resource, and it gives you tips, it gives you all kinds of tips for great questions. It tells you how to do how to conduct an effective interview, all kinds of tips, and it's a great fun way to use technology. And many of the young people end up actually interviewing their family members, which is a wonderful archived piece of history then that they get to utilize too in the classroom. So that's a nice tool. What I'd like to do is go ahead and stop sharing my screen and turn it over to Cheryl and then Gary. Cheryl?
Just a minute, still figuring this out.
Sure, so down at the bottom, Cheryl, if you move your cursor around, you should see a little button that says share, and then it's going to bring up a screen with a bunch of different options, and you can click the one you want to share.
Yeah, I just have too many things open right now. It's hard to find. Okay, here we go. Yeah, so this curriculum is one that I like, especially for younger kids. It's of course designed for in-person, but when kids are at home and trying to do different activities, it is a helpful resource that parents can also look at for some ideas of stories, of books, of also like craft ideas and things like that. So especially for the younger learners, it can be a helpful guide. There's also like tips for the teachers and things like that that parents can find helpful. So in connection with the teachers. So this is a curriculum that we have used actually we experimented in adapting it in NARPE for the children of the staff who were there at the Northeast Asia Regional Peace Building Institute. And then the Korea Peace Building Institute is actually has created another curriculum based on this. So it's not designed for online, but there are definitely elements of it that can be helpful for online, and the resources are again for sharing as well with teachers, but also with parents if you're working with young learners. So that was one idea that I had to share.
And Cheryl, these are all free and available at the link you posted in the chat. Is that correct?
That's right. That's right. Yeah. Yeah.
Thank you so much. Sounds like you have a cute person there with you.
Yes, I have a little person with here, so I'm going to mute my mic again.
So thank you so much, Cheryl. And Cheryl again is with the Northeast Asian Regional Peace Building Institute there in South Korea. Thanks so much for joining us, and they are a member of GPAC. Let me hand it back over to Gary. Are you all set with your additional resource?
Who knows, Jen? Let's just try to see what happens.
All right.
Okay. Has that come up yet?
It did. Thank you so much. Great resource.
Okay, so just wanted to draw your attention to this particular one. I think it's got a very practical use. It's for primary and secondary students, so from foundation kindergarten through to year 10. And you can see in terms of the global perspectives how global education could be emphasised in the classroom, and peace building and conflict resolution is one of the 5 perspectives that are developed throughout the website. There's particular teaching and learning strategies in the global issues. There are things like country profiles. Global issues are developed and expanded and provide really rich resource for classroom discussion, classroom activities, and following up with research. There are case studies as well in various places around the world. And if you apply those 5 lenses to particular countries and particular issues, you can see how peace education could be developed further, particularly there's one there in places where there has been conflict or where there's been attempts to reduce conflict. So just drawing your attention to that one, I think it's particularly practical very useful. There's a lot of lessons and activities in there that you could use. So I think worth having a look at from a primary and secondary teachers' point of view.
Great, thank you so much. Thank you. If there are not other people who'd like to share, are there any questions before?
Yes. Yes, this is Madeline. I have 2 questions.
Great.
First, is there anybody else in the education working group who works in prisons? Is there anybody doing peace education with incarcerated folks?
So Christina, do you know about GPAC colleagues working in prisons? I'm sure there are some. They just might not be in our peace education working group. They might be in one of the other working groups. Christina, do you know?
I'm not aware. I'm afraid that I don't know. Sorry.
Okay, it's a peculiar kind of place to work. The other question is, I forgot what my other question is, but this is very interesting. And well, I should say that I use a lot of the same kinds of resources that you all are presenting, and I will follow up all of these links and then take what you have taught me today into my work in the prisons. I will tell you that the work that we've been doing in the prisons for 20 years now, it really does make a difference in the climate in the institution, because our graduates go back into the general population with the skills that they've learned for peaceable community, and it really does make a difference in the entire institution. So I'm very interested in what you all are doing. And Gary, I still use the tea towel that you gave me of Australia when I do the global parts.
Great to hear from you, Madeline.
Thanks, Gary.
Thank you. Great. So thank you so much, Madeline. And what we'll do is after this, we'll check in with some of our colleagues at GPAC and see who else is working with prisons. I'm positive we have other colleagues who are, just not necessarily right in our working group. Michelle had a question. How do you encourage parents to do peace education at home? I'm running right now a peace education page named Peace Education at Home, and mostly they're parents from all over the world. So thanks. So some of you on the call, would you like to answer that question? How do you encourage parents to do peace education at home? I know Gohar's on from our media, and they work a great deal with parents. Gohar, would you like to share? Maybe her mic is muted. She was not, maybe she had to leave us. Are there others who work with parents that would like to answer that question? Madeline, I know you did lots of work with parents. Be sure you unmute your mic. Oh, Cheryl raised her hand. Cheryl, go ahead.
Yeah, I haven't been doing a lot of work directly right now, but as a parent, it's definitely something that I'm very interested in. In the past, we did do a project that worked with parents and kids together. And that was a really, actually, it was a short-term project, but it was a very effective model to be able to work at parents learning together with their kids and including both of them. So they were parents of pre-kindergarten kids who were very interested in peace education and their kids being involved in peace education programs, but also practicing at home. So it was great because in the class we were able to do activities together and talk about issues together, and then their homework was basically to continue some of that together at home. I think that that combination of kind of children-focused education plus parent-focused education, kind of side by side and together, was a really effective model that I would like to try again in some setting if possible. I would love to participate in that kind of thing if there's any opportunity to do it too, because I think it's definitely one thing being working with peace education in a school setting, but the work at home is so important, but so challenging in a different way than working with a group of kids the same age in a classroom setting.
Absolutely. Great. So I know we're at time here. There was a question about restorative justice and some of the resources. There are lots of other resources on restorative justice, and I'm thinking that perhaps that could be an entire session, perhaps in the coming week or so. For those of you who joined us a little bit later, this is going to be an ongoing discussion. Through each week, we're going to have a certain topic, and we'll invite people to come and discuss with us and share some of the resources, since around the globe, many of us have had to move to teaching online. So what are some of those free resources that are available? If you're interested in knowing what the next topics are, however you heard about this particular session, we'll be advertising that way. For those who also registered, we'll be sure to send out an email to all of you, and hopefully we'll be able to post those on the GPAC webpage so that you can take a look and see where those are. Madeline did put in the post, in the prisons, parents want to rebuild relationships with their children, so they're highly motivated to participating in parent education, including problem solving and conflict resolution, and she has lots of stories of that success. Madeline, if you're willing to have people contact you, if you want to put your email address in the link, you could do that. And from Gary Shaw, he mentioned that one of the gaps in online resources, I think, is the parent resources. So maybe we can do a session specifically on parent resources. I know there's quite a bit out there, so let's pool our knowledge about that. In closing, I also wanted to share, this is one of a very important piece around the globe as we think about COVID-19, as we think about different kinds of events, is digital literacy. And one of the nice resources that's free from teachingtolerance.org is they've come up with digital literacy lessons. My undergraduate future teachers are mostly social studies teachers, and having them be able to understand and sift through and help their students who are going to be in elementary, middle, and high school better understand if what they're reading is fake news or not is so important in the field of peace building and conflict resolution as we teach history, social emotional learning. So here there are free resources, as you can see, for primary, for grades 3 to 5 on being sensible consumers, digital platforms, grades 6 to 8 on understanding and evaluating online searches. So you'll be able to find lots of great lessons here. In addition, on their webpage, they have a digital literacy framework that you can access, and there are videos that you could use in your classroom on how does fake news become news. So hopefully you'll be able to, if you're interested, take a look at that. Madeline did post her email address into the Zoom group chat if you'd like to take a look and would like to connect with her about parents and some of the workshops for parents, particularly with prisons. So thank you so much for joining us. We hope you'll join us again next week. Next week's will be focused on colleges and universities teaching the skills of conflict resolution and some of the online tools for teaching online. And yeah, so Gary Shaw, also from the Department of Education of Melbourne, put his email address so anyone can connect with him. And if you are interested in reaching out to GPAC specifically about the peace education work, Christina has included her email there at kmiltic@gpac.net. So great. And Tony from the Global Campaign for Peace Education also included his. So we have lots of great resources. Thank you so much for joining us. We hope that you'll join us next week and share some of the resources that you're using. And Michelle will hopefully get back to you about some of those parent resources. Thank you so much. And we're going to close. Thank you. Bye.
Thanks, Jen. Thanks, everyone.
Thanks, everyone. Bye.
Bye. Have a nice day.
Thank you. Nice to see all you here.
Thanks. Bye, Cheryl.